There once was a warrior who entered history with a single reputation trailing behind him. He had never lost a duel. A man who seemed to know no fear, and who, across the centuries, was reshaped by novels, films, and games into a true legend. Almost always, he is shown as an invincible warrior, a great halberd in hand, cutting down any enemy that crossed his path. For a great many people, that is the definitive image of Lu Bu. But how much of that fame is truly history, and how much of it is fiction? The historical records tell a different story. Not a lesser one, no less impressive, but far more human. This is the story of a man who possessed extraordinary strength, who built a reputation that crossed centuries and inspired countless legends, but whose choices, in the end, would completely change the course of his life. So let us separate the facts from the legends, discover who the real Lu Bu was, and understand why he became one of the most fascinating figures of the entire age of the Three Kingdoms. The boy from the borderlands. Lu Bu was born around 156 AD in the province of Bingzhou, out on the frontier, where the Han Empire met the wild steppe to the north. A hard land that raiders came often. There, a boy learned to fight about as early as he learned to survive. Even young, the chroniclers say, he showed a gift few men had, with the bow and on horseback. That image you carry of him, swinging some enormous halberd through a crowd of enemies? That came centuries later, born from the romance of the Three Kingdoms. In the true history, his name was made by something quieter and no less deadly, a bowstring drawn with perfect aim, and a rider who seemed part of his horse. They called him a warrior of uncommon courage, and an archer beyond compare. Later, his name would be tied forever to the red hare, the most famous horse of the entire age. Few men, one-on-one, dared face him. His reputation crossed all of China while he still drew breath. Now, his strength was never the problem. The trouble began the moment he had to choose who he'd serve. Lu Bu began under a warlord named Ding Yuan, a man who treated him near enough as a son. But when a better offer came along, from Dong Zhuo, the most feared man in the realm, Lu Bu killed the man who had raised him, and changed sides without so much as a backward glance. As his reward, he was adopted by Dong Zhuo instead. By then, Dong Zhuo had already seized the capital, cast down the young emperor Lu Bian, and set the boy's younger brother, Lu Xie, upon the throne in his place. Not long after, Lu Bian was forced to take his own life. Oh, the emperor still existed, you understand, but the one truly ruling China was Dong Zhuo, and he made very sure everyone knew it. The records of that time say Dong Zhuo scorned even the sacred customs of the court, walked armed before the emperor, and once even slept in the bed meant for the sovereign alone. It did not take long before other warlords banded together against him. Cao Cao, Yuan Shao, Sun Jian, Liu Bei, and many more, a great coalition, gathered to bring the tyrant down. And here is where one of the most famous scenes in all of popular memory appears. Lu Bu, standing alone, facing down three great generals in one legendary duel before the capital's gates. A magnificent scene. It never happened. That tale was spun by the romance of the Three Kingdoms, written nearly 1,000 years after the fact. Even surrounded, Dong Zhuo sat safe enough. That coalition, you see, distrusted one another rather more than they hated the tyrant. Popular legend says everything changed because of a woman, Diaochan. The old story tells of a love triangle, a trap laid to turn Lu Bu against Dong Zhuo. But the histories do not bear that out. The most they suggest is some quiet involvement between Lu Bu and a servant girl of Dong Zhuo's household. Passion, ambition, or plain convenience, call it what you like. The ending was the same. The pattern repeated itself. Just as he had done to Ding Yuan, Lu Bu turned his blade against his second father. In the year 192, he had Dong Zhuo killed. But rather than being hailed a hero for it, he became the most hunted man in China. Dong Zhuo's old followers swore vengeance, and drove Lu Bu fleeing from the capital. He sought shelter with Yuan Shao, and was refused. His fame as a warrior remained untouched. His name as an ally, that was another matter. He had, after all, betrayed and killed two men who had called him son. Only one man was willing to give him another chance, Liu Bei, known far and wide for his honor and his loyalty. He took Lu Bu in at Shuzhou and gave him shelter. Now, if you've caught the shape of this story so far, I suspect you already know what came next. The water, the alcohol, and the fall. In the year 196, Liu Bei marched out from Shuzhou to face Yuan Shu, one of the most ambitious warlords of the age. And while he was gone, Lu Bu seized Xiapi, the great fortress capital of the whole province. In a matter of days, he stole the very land of the one man who had sheltered him when no one else would. With nowhere left to turn, Liu Bei went to Cao Cao. Apart, neither stood much chance against Lu Bu. Together, they had won. Late in 198, the two of them laid siege to Xiapi. It was among the most vital strongholds in eastern China, holding the roads between north and south. Knowing a direct assault would cost him dearly, Cao Cao ordered the rivers about the city diverted to flood the ground around it. Slowly, the fortress was cut off, and the will to resist began to crumble. But it was not the flooded walls alone that would bring Lu Bu down. The records say he drank without measure, punished his own soldiers cruelly, and turned a deaf ear to every counsel his strategists gave him. The very man who put fear into his enemies could not earn the trust of his own men. And in the end, my friend, it was they who decided his fate. While Lu Bu slept, some of his own officers seized him and threw open the gates to Cao Cao. The most feared warrior of his generation did not fall to an army. He fell because those meant to guard him chose to abandon him instead. Brought before Cao Cao, he begged for one more chance. He swore he would serve the victor with all the skill he'd shown in battle. And for a moment, Cao Cao seemed to weigh the offer. Then Liu Bei asked but a single question. Have you forgotten what became of Ding Yuan and of Dong Zhuo? That was enough. If Lu Bu had betrayed the two men who had raised him as their own, why would he keep faith with a third? Cao Cao gave the order. He was executed in the year 199 AD, a man of some 40 years. And so ended the life of one many believed the greatest warrior of his age. He did not die in some legendary duel, nor surrounded by 100 foes. He died bound in rope, betrayed by his own men, condemned because no one, by the end, believed a single word he said. Kinder was the fate of Zhang Liao, one of his officers, spared by Cao Cao. He rose to become one of the greatest generals the age would ever know. The subordinate built the legacy his own commander never could. And perhaps that is the true meaning hidden in the story of Lu Bu. His strength was extraordinary. His courage, beyond question. His talent alone was enough to carve his name into history. But no kingdom, my friend, is built on strength alone. Where Lu Bu trusted only his own spear, Cao Cao trusted in strategy. Where Lu Bu gathered victories, one duel at a time, Cao Cao gathered men worth trusting. While one chased the next opportunity, the other was quietly building the next kingdom. So the question worth asking was never who was the strongest warrior of the three kingdoms. Hardly anyone argues that. The true question is this: what good is being the strongest man alive, if not a single soul is willing to stand and fight beside you? That, friend, is the whole difference between power and leadership. And perhaps that is the last lesson Lu Bu left behind. It matters not how vast your gift may be. Without trust, without loyalty, without vision, even the strongest man alive can still be brought down. But the tale of the three kingdoms does not end with Lu Bu. No, it is also the tale of men like Cao Cao, one of the greatest strategists and leaders China would ever know, a man whose shadow reshaped the fate of an entire empire. And speaking of extraordinary warriors, did you know China has a true god of war? No, not the fellow with the axe from your games. This is the tale of a real man who, centuries after his death, came to be worshipped as a god, and is honored in temples to this very day. If this tale pleased you, leave your mark, join us for what comes next, and ring the little bell so you don't miss it. And tell me, in the words below, which figure from history would you have me summon next? Until we meet again.